Very good morning to all our fellow participants for joining us today. Thank you for being here. We have lined up a very exciting topic for you. A security piece that many of us have often overlooked, the F5 SSL Orchestrator. It aims to help your organization to run efficiently by simplifying the NetOps tasks and indirectly cost saving. My name is Joe T, and I'm the F5 Product Manager from Westcom Malaysia, a global distributor for F5. Joining me today is our Regional Technical Lead from Singapore, Mr. Norman Tan. Today's webinar is co-hosted with our partner Secure365. Be sure to join us till the end and fill in the survey form to claim your gift. There's also exciting prizes to be won by answering the Kahoot session. If you have any questions to our panelists, please feel free to type it into the Q&A box. We'll send you the slide after the webinar session. Our first presenter today will be Lee Sing, General Manager of Secure365, followed by Norman Tan's presentation and demo. Finally, we will have our Kahoot quiz and Q&A session. Without further ado, over to you, Lee Sing.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe, for the kind introduction. So if I can share my screen on Secure365. Okay, yeah, just a quick check. Joe, can you see my full screen in the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can see.
Can, okay, thank you very much. Okay, so first of all, very good morning to everyone and also the participants. As mentioned by Joe, my name is Lee Sing. You can call me LH as in short. So I'm actually from a company called Secure365 Next Gen Solution. In short, we call ourselves Secure365. So let me walk you through about Secure365. We are actually a well-established IT company in Malaysia, and we were actually formed in 2013. I'll share with you later in terms of our staff. We are all actually qualified and certified consultant. We have a professional team committed to deliver projects within specification. We also work hand in hand with our partners in order to fulfill their projects needs and also requirements. We are also a client-centric technology solution company to address the current and future needs in digital business. I will also share with you later in terms of our client base. We do serve clients in all different organizations, in all shapes and sizes. Okay, in Secure365, basically we have three core pillars. The first pillar you can see on the far left, it's called the network security solutions. Under network security solutions, we have this called the security sub-pillar. And what we have is basically your network firewalls, traditional firewalls. And these network firewalls can be on-prem or it can be on cloud as well. We also cover endpoint protection, and then we also cover even cloud security as well. In terms of big data analytics and artificial intelligence, although big data and AI, it can be used in different domains, but in our case, we have actually applied big data analytics and AI in the network security solution itself. Okay, so that is more on the first pillar that we work on is on the network security solutions. Coming to the second pillar, which is a software development service, we do take in software projects as mentioned, on a service basis. Basically, we can provide software development and develop applications on enterprise, web-based, mobiles, and even APIs. So once a project has been completed, the software portion or source code will actually be provided back to the client, even the intellectual property. But in most of the cases, customer will actually come back to us to do the software maintenance as well. We also have a team to do software quality assurance because sometimes we have clients that will be doing a lot of software development, and usually they will leave the QA at the last portion. This is where we come in to provide software QA services. And as for the third pillar, we have the IT system integration. Under this pillar, as you can see, it is mentioned customized hardware and software system integration. So what this means is that, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a software team, and we will actually so-called integrate with a hardware that can be purchased off the shelf. So an example would be for we have like CCTV, face recognition CCTV, and we have software development. We can actually develop a software to integrate with the CCTV itself. So in a package, we can provide face recognition CCTV together with the software package to the client. And under this same umbrella, we have endpoint, server, and also hybrid clouds. So on the endpoints, we do sell endpoints, okay, such as servers, routers. And in terms of hybrid cloud, we have actually helped customer to migrate some of the network infra, okay, on-prem up to the cloud. So whether customer chooses the network security solution, the software development service, or even the IT integration, if you can see at the bottom there, we do provide professional services and support maintenance. So we are not only just a reseller, but we are also be seen as a system integrator as well across the three pillars. Okay, just to go through a few IT products that we carry. So in terms of the firewall, network firewall security, we do carry a checkpoint. That's our main firewall that we've been carrying since 2013. We have other big data analytics and AI, which is Splunk. And we also carry F5 products, which is the main so-called highlight for today in this webinar. And other products that we carry are like Tenable, VMware, Cisco, Barracuda, Oracle, WatchGuard, Fortinet, and so forth. Okay, in terms of the IT and the security portion, where I mentioned earlier, because we do carry Checkpoint as our main firewall network product, and also this is actually we need certified so-called certified engineers. So all our team are actually qualified and experienced IT, and you can see from the slide here, our engineers are Checkpoint certified, which has CCSN, CCSE, CCSA, and so forth. We also have certified Cisco engineer, which has CCNA and CCNP certification. And when we carry any of our projects, we have also PMP certified project manager. And if we do any software development, as per the second pillar, we do have certified Scrum Master as well. In terms of recognition, we have a Checkpoint. Okay, we are considered as CCSP. We are the first reseller in Malaysia to obtain CCSP. So CCSP stands for Checkpoint Certified Collaborative Support Partner Provider. What this means that we are actually on par with the principal himself. In other words, if we get any tickets or any troubleshooting required, we can be actually the first level 1 to 3 as well in order to solve the issue. So we are also considered as a Checkpoint 3-star partner, IBM business partner, and also Splunk partners. Coming to the second pillar, in terms of software development, we have actually developers in-house. We have actually done software development based on using Java technology, .NET, Angular. And when it comes to mobile applications, we do have engineers working on native mobile language such as Android and iOS. And in terms of hybrid mobile language, we have used Flutter and Ionic. We have also used new technologies such as Kubernetes and also Nginx in part of our software development. And of course, the trend now when we do any software development, we use the Agile methodology. Basically, what it does that by using Agile during our software development, we actually maximize the throughput, manage changes, and also clients' involvement. Okay, in terms of our core values and whom we serve, we see ourselves as a global network company. We are actually partnered with many global leading principals and also distributors. And in terms of people-wise, we see ourselves as a professional team because all of our staff are actually, we have they're qualified and have the certification. We provide all-time support, okay, 24/7, whether the client chooses one or more of the three pillars. And the product and the services that we carry, we actually talk to our customers in terms of to find the right solutions for them. And whom we serve, we have served companies from various industries. financial, manufacturing, telecom, media and broadcasting. And I would like to share with you, this is actually some of our clientele that we have shared. In terms of FSI, in banks, we have served customers like CNB Bank, Lawnpack Insurance, Araji. And in terms of manufacturing, we have actually served customers like Top Glove. And for media and broadcasting, you can see that we have served customers like The Star, Astro, Media Prima, and so forth. So from this clientele that we have, so we actually, one or more of these clients actually engage with us in either the network security solution, the software development, or the system integration. Okay, so with that, I would like to say thank you for your attention. And if there's any more information that you require, you can always contact me here. So with that being said, I would like to pass the time to Norman.
All right. Thanks, Lee Sing. Just to do a check, can you able to hear me well and see my content?
Yes.
We are able to hear you, Norman.
Okay, all right. So let's get started. So first of all, let's thanks Secure 365, right, for sharing what the three core pillar of what they have to offer, right? And then, right. So a very good morning to everyone. Right, my name is Norman. I'm from Westcon Solution, and I handles a F5 portfolio, right? And I will be the presenter for the F5 content moving forward from later on, right? So as you already know that today we are talking about the F5 SSLO. So SSLO meaning is a SSL Orchestrator, right? So it provides visibility and also traffic orchestration. So I'll be talking about how it can bring value to you and your company as well. And then not only that, in the later portion, right, I will also be sharing some of the scenario demo, right, based on different use cases. There is about, I think, 4 use cases, right? And then I will do that demo based on a video approach. And then this demo, we actually build it in our Westcon internal lab, which we call it a Westcon COE, Center of Excellence. And without further delay, all right, let's get started. Right. So first of all, right, in business, right, change is very constant, right, especially on the network infrastructure. So those changes come very often at a very significant amount of risk, right, and also a overhead causes. And those changes, right, require speed and agility, right? Because we when change happens, right, we want the companies and the infrastructure to be able to spin up whatever applications or security up to speed, right? And then without having downtime for their security stacks, right? And wasted time during the change management resulted in loss of revenue, right? And also the opportunity for the new organization. And currently in this world context right now, we are living in a digital world, right? So more and more aspects of our consumer life are migrating online, all along from a shopping to gaming, even now, right, to hybrid and work from home workforce. And so many of these basic elements, right, have actually lead us to migrate to a digital world. And because of this, the application provider, right, they had to learn to be more adaptive, right? And then also they need to be resilient to change, right? The organization suddenly have a new requirement to scale at a never been seen rate in order to support the massive rise in online participation. That means into moving a digital into the first world. So with digital transformation, all right, and organizations scale their network infrastructure, right, to support these new users and new activities, right? So we take it, for example, most of us as work from home, right? So we most of them, the enterprise that do not have any remote infrastructures, right, they have to come up with that in a very short time amount, right? So we need to get them up to speed, right? And also not only that, to protect their application, to protect their internal assets, right? Because if they allow externals to come into the internal, right, we need to secure the access properly, right? And of course, right, to scale their network and their users at a greater scale, right? So going through a digital transformation involve security stack transformation. And these transformations, right, means there is a change of management windows, right? And then that may potentially be slow and costly for that organization. So in terms of change in security stack, let's talk about it. And then why it can be time consuming and then costly. So first of all, the change of window, right, can involve hundreds of people verifying that critical business flow function are expected, right? And then these changes, right, can lead to the loss of many humans hours, right? And then followed by testing, and also until the testing is done, right, and until the verification is completed. So this is very time consuming, right? So the time involved, right, can be simply due to swapping out of devices, upgrading, changing a security solution that can increase your features and also your operational flow, right? Next, we also need to have, it will also cause a lost businesses and revenue, right? Because it is very time consuming, right? And then it will affect your business growth opportunity. And last but not least, the cost and the complexity of this change management, right, can even create an unintended encrypted traffic bypasses, leading this more to more breaches and also infections of your internal infrastructure, which is exactly why we need F5 SSL, right, is able to protect you against those threats. And those security stacks, right, can happen for many reasons, right? So this reason includes things like a digital transformation, and it can happen because of device failure. All right, you need to change the device because it has been out of maybe EOL, etc. Due to bugs or failure, or to upgrade your new features, right? And then swap out might due to a tech refresh, right? And also if the customers, they might want to move on into a new solution. For example, from certain firewall, they want to change into a next-gen firewall, for example, right? So all these changes in security stacks, right, can happen for many reasons, but just not just only these 5 reasons, right? They have many more. And with that, right, typically in a traditional security stack model, we call it a daisy chain approach. This daisy chain approach, right, is that we actually daisy chaining all of this security solution, right? And then this, right, will enable the multiple point of failure, and it can also impact this security performance. And then this will lead to traffic bypasses and also breaches and compromise customer data. For example, your PIL being exposed, right? And then this daisy chain stacks, right, can lead to a very long delay in making changes that your business require. And of course, this traditional model, right, it lack of adaptability, it induced latency, and then of course, right, it impact the user's experience and also security performance, right? Because this is a daisy chain approach. So next, right, let's talk about in more deeper into understanding the traffic flow of how a traditional SSL daisy chain model is, right? So for example, right, a user trying to access information from internal to the public, and those traffic, right, they need to flow through those different kind of security stack in your environment. So in this slide, we have example, we have a web gateway, we have a DLP, we have a IDS, we have next-gen firewall, for example, and then last but not least, into the public. So when the user is trying to access that, right, it will flow through those individual security model, right, or we call it devices. So when that happens, right, in a daisy chain design, each of these security devices, they are doing the SSL inspection within themselves, right? So this means that a traffic going to the traffic going to outbound, it will first go to web gateway, and then web gateway will do their own decryption, right, and then encrypt again before passing on to the next security stacks, right? So this is happening in the individual security devices. So when the traffic comes in web gateway, they'll decrypt, right, and then they will do the necessary inspection, right, and then they'll encrypt it again before passing back to a DLP, and then the same processes back to IDS, and then the same processes back to your next-gen firewall, and then lastly into your public cloud. So in this approach, right, you can see just by this traffic flow, you're able to see what is that challenge that you will be facing, right? First of all, what if one of your security devices fail? How are the operators or administrators, right? How are they going to manage those traffic? How are they going to make this traffic to bypass this certain failed devices, right? So this is one challenge. And often, right, this comes in a very manual way that they have to do it in their environment, right? It's not automated. And what about performance issue, right? For example, if let's say one of your security devices, right, they are having a performance issue, and for the administrator to know what happens, right, they have to go through this different daisy chain kind of approach, and then lastly to troubleshoot which are the devices that is causing the performance issue, right? So all this right will take time, and then this brings us right to the few major concern that we've seen for traditional SSL daisy chain design. So perform degradation, right? There is a multiple point of failure, and then with this daisy chain, it will increase latency, and it will affect users' performance, right? And of course, right, with this, right, there's no visibility, right? And then of course, that will lead to an increased risk of threats. Right. So what we need to know is that many of us know that security devices, for example, your next-gen firewall. The next-gen firewall, of course, people will say that they are able to do SSL inspection. But what we need to understand from that is that those firewall, right, they are primarily task, right, is not to provide SSL inspection, right? They have their primary role to perform, right, because they are a next-gen firewall. They have others important roles to in charge, right? So if we enable those SSL visibility or inspection in their security devices, right, first of all, we need to understand SSL inspection will cause a lot of CPU usage, all right? And then this, right, if let's say you open up in your next-gen firewall, it will actually increase your CPU utilization, and then it might affect your firewall performance, right? So what we wanted to address, to bring across, is that the security inspection devices, right, they are not the right tool for SSL inspection, right? That's why we need a F5 SSL orchestrator to provide that kind of features. And then not only that, on SSL inspection, we also provide SSL orchestrator, right, orchestration. So in the next few slides, right, I will able to talk more about that. So what we wanted to say that as more traffic is encrypted with SSL, right, those security tools that you often use to provide visibility, right, they very often became less effective, right, due to an increasing of SSL blind spot. So with F5, right, we're able to provide a more kind of orchestration for SSL traffic, and then of course it will increase your performance and user experience. Right. So our businesses, right, need to make changes to your security stacks, and not just quickly, but also at the speed of a businesses that your business required, right? And we can't wait for the convenient time, right, to hold for example, a conference call or meeting with hundreds of SysOps, your NetOps team, or others, other vendors, right? And then to make that kind of management change, right? And then this will take days for testing, retesting, and finally validation. So this is the speed that we need to focus on. So with F5, what we are able to do, right, we are able to simplify your security stack change management, right? So in this slide over here, what you can see is that we have F5 SSL orchestrator, right? So all of the security devices, they actually work, they will not go through a SSL inspection within themselves, right? So all of the traffic will flow through SSL F5, and then all the inspection, all the orchestration or where the traffic will flow to, right, will be all in charge via the F5 SSL, right? And then F5 SSL will actually distribute the traffic across to the various security models or security devices that you have, right? So for example, this example is that it will simplify the change management. If let's say you want to replace your old firewall with a next-gen firewall, maybe you want to try a different vendor due to certain reasons, etc., right? So with F5 SSL, right, we are able to help you to make these changes based on a dynamic or automated way, right? And then this will simplify your whole changes, and then reduce your time, cost, and also impact. So later on, I will be sharing more of that in the demo scenario. And not only to that, right? So dynamic orchestrated infrastructure security drive change management, right? So F5 SSLO, like what I mentioned, we don't focus on just SSLO offloading. We don't just do SSL termination. However, we focus on the overall picture, which is to provide a SSL orchestration, right? To orchestrate the security stacks. So with that, right, we're able to shorten the time consumed when there is a change management. This is one thing. And of course, to simplify the equipment changes, right? And then secondly, we're able to route traffic based on context and policies. So the contextual policy engine support things like geolocation, IP reputation, URL category, and also we support a third-party ICAP integration. And the action that we can do, right, is the action like maybe to bypass, to block, to allow, right, is based on a policy base. And last but not least, we are able to scale these security services, right? And then not only do that, we also can provide a high availability, failover protection, and then we can achieve a kind of load balancing between your security stacks, right? As you know that F5, we are a ADC. We came up with a ADC LTM, right? So within our SSLO modules, we are able to provide that kind of load balancing features as well, right? So this will also improve your user performance. Right. So the SSL Orchestrator, we create a dynamic and logical security chain based on the type of incoming traffic, which we leveraging the existing security solution your customers already have. For example, web gateway or even a next-gen firewall, for example, right? So if you look at the bottom over here, right? So how do we, with F5 SSLO, right, we are able to do this very detailed kind of classification, all right? So for example, if a traffic coming outbound into your, it's a HTTP traffic, right? So first of all, what they will do is that F5, right, they will do a inspection of SSL traffic, right, over here. They will decrypt, and then they will pass on to the next security devices, which it might be your web gateway, all right? And then back to your IDS next-gen firewall, and then lastly, right, we encrypt them, and then back into your public. Or let's say we wanted, there is a finance or a confidential traffic, right, that we do not want to intercept the traffic. We do not want to look into the traffic itself, which means there's no SSL inspection. What we can do is that we can classify this as a finance traffic, right? And then the action can be bypassed. So we do not provide any inspection. And then the next security devices we will pass to is a next-gen firewall, all right? And then lastly, back into cloud. So these are just a few classification example that we F5 SSL is able to provide. And then we can, in terms of, we can do like a URL category. We can base on source to destination IP port, etc. So there's many more of the classification that we can do, right? So this is just a few example. So this how do we do this, right? This classification is based on a F5 policy, which we call it a virtual per request policy. And how do we make up of this? Is a very visual and user-friendly kind of policy that you were able to configure in F5 SSLO. Right, and the orchestrating infrastructure securities, right? We simplify change management processes, right? Reduce time, right? And then we mitigate the unintentional traffic bypasses because we inspect all of the SSL traffic and then to make sure there's no encrypted traffic that is not allowed in your environment for them to access to the public. So we actually mitigate that. We reduce administrative costs, right? Because of the time management that we actually helps to improve that, to shorten the change management processes. And of course, to defense against layer 3 to layer 7 attacks. So as you know that F5, right, further than the ADC portions, right, we also provide a security model suite. So we have a AFM, right? AFM is what we call it the Advanced Firewall Manager, which provide against layer 3 to layer 4 security. And we also do have a WAF, which we call it an advanced WAF. So this advanced WAF is able to protect against your layer 7 attacks, right? So in all, right, the F5 itself, right, we are able to protect against threats all the way from a layer 3 to layer 7 based on the OSI layer, right? So the SSL Orchestrator, right, we design it to orchestrate traffic and then to the rest of your security stacks. And thus, right, this is very important for us, right, to be able to communicate with customers that have a large suite of security vendors. So very commonly, these are the vendors that we work with, right, such as Cisco, Firepower, Forcepoint, Secure Web Gateway, Next-Gen Firewall of Palo Alto, FireEye, right? So these are just a few naming, all right? And then we have a whole list that we are able to, we are compatible with these additional vendors, right? So there is still organizations, right, they are using those security products, right, over here, for example, right, to use that to decrypt traffic to provide SSL visibility, right, on top of its primary functionality, right? For example, Cisco Firewall, Cisco Firepower, right, to decrypt and re-encrypt traffic in addition to what they are using as a firewall, right? So this with F5 SSLO, right, we were very likely to benefit them from freeing up some of the Cisco Firewall CPU by offloading these SSL use cases and then to F5 SSLO, right, to let F5 handle that, right? And then not only to this large suite of vendors, right, we also can be used to orchestrate traffic, right, to a security devices that is not listed in this category. So for example, we can base on a ICAP, right, or for example, a customer has a customs application, right, we can place them in line on layer 3, right, and then the SSL orchestrators, right, we are flexible, and then we can allow that to work together with F5 SSLO, right? So these are the few vendor suite, right? So your organizations, right, can move traffic from one active devices and while changing the others, right? And then the service chain, right, can temporarily and instead be inspected by other devices that are active, right, leading to a seamless experience with no lack of coverage for inspection services. So what we want to do is that your businesses, right, can use SSLO Orchestrator, right, F5 SSLO, to introduce new security technology by sending those traffic stream to the new devices in their dynamic chain. So that means that if let's say you have a new vendors that's coming up, right, we are able to move this traffic to another topology without affecting your current traffic flow. So this will actually help in terms of managing your infrastructure. So same thing, this right, there will be a demo slide to talk about that. Right. So that is the first portion of my presentation, right? So just to recap a bit is that the first portion I already mentioned that the F5 SSLO, right? What we do primarily is to provide a SSL orchestration, right? Not just only termination, not just only offloading, right? So we actually provide the customers, right, to be able to manage their SSL traffic, right? And then in terms of that, when there is any change management processor that they need, right, F5 SSL is able to automate those processes and then to simplify the configuration and also help in your administrator to manage your infrastructure, right? So that is the main objective of F5 SSLO, right? And then next, right, let's move on to the demo portion, right? So like what I mentioned in the first, before I start the webinar, right, we call it this a Westcon COE showcase, which is the Center of Excellence. So the Center of Excellence, right, we have a few different use cases, right? So let's get started. Right, so before I go into that detail, I just want to share a bit on how we actually set up this SSLO lab in our environment, right? So first of all, right, we have a F5 SSLO in place, right? And then if you look at in the internal network, all right, we have a server network, right, which we included e-commerce web application, right? We call it a LAMP server, right? Or we can call it a hackathon, right? So most of you might have heard of it. The hackathon is an e-commerce web application that is a open source, right? So we use that to serve as a web application, and we have a user network which serve as an internal users that is trying to access the information in the public, right? So with that, right, if you realize, right, we also included some of the different vendors into the setup. So we have a next-gen firewall from Palo Alto, we have a next-gen firewall from Checkpoint, right? And we also spin up a F5 secure web gateway. And also, last but not least, we have set up a antivirus. It's an open source antivirus. We call it a Squid Clamp AV, right? And then we have external network, right? This external jump host will allow us to trigger some kind of attacks if needed, right? And then, so this is our SSL design setup, right? So if you realize, why do we include so many different kind of vendors in the setup? It's because, right, what we wanted to achieve is to build this lab in a very multi-vendors environment. So we do that is because, right, we want to relate this setup as much as possible, right, to the customers out there, right, to the enterprise out there, so they are able to relate this kind of setup into their own environment, right, as much as possible. So this is our objective, right? So let's get started, right? So this the slides over here you see is to actually explain to you the traditional design for daisy chain, right? I think I mentioned it in the initial portion, right? So just to recap a bit, is that in our internal lab, we have an internal user, right? And then our flow is that we will flow through a next-gen firewall with DLP, right? And then next, right, we have antivirus, right? We just create antivirus, and then to the secure web gateway, and then into the public, right? So the traffic flow will be like this. So we will trigger a traffic to the public, right? First of all, you will go through your next-gen firewall with DLP, and then with this traditional daisy chain, they will do their own SSL inspection, right? And then lastly, you're back into the public. So with this, right, you increase network latency, right? You have multiple SSL interception point, right? And then multiple point of failure, and of course, you will have this very complexity in terms of deployment and troubleshooting. So with this, right, this slide over here, what we wanted to show you, right? It's we have a demo, we have a video demo later after this slide to demo to you the importance of a SSL traffic inspection, right? So we have a setup that according to this traffic flow, right? And then there is no SSL visibility in place for the video demo. So just as to show you what will happen if, let's say, you do not have SSL visibility in your environment. So to recap on the traffic flow again, internal users, right, go to next-gen firewall, antivirus, secure web gateway, and then back into the public. Right. So let's get started to that video, right? So in our approach, what we wanted to do is that in our next-gen firewall with DLP, right, we configure a data loss prevention profile, right? So what we do is that we will deny or block any traffic, right, that is contain any sensitive information. For example, NRIC or credit card numbers, right, in the Palo Alto. So we actually configure this in a Palo Alto. So let's play the video, right? So this is NRIC credit number, right, based on a sensitive info over here, right? So what we do next is that what we try to do is that we will upload a file containing those information, all right? So without SSL visibility in place, right, we will see what will happen, even though we have configured a DLP profile in that next-gen firewall, right? So first of all, when you go into Dropbox, right, let us look at the certification, right? So as you can see over here, this certification is issued by Dropbox, is default by Dropbox, right? So that means that F5 or even in this demo, right, where there is no interception of SSL traffic, right? So there's no visibility on SSL, right? So with that, right, let's go move on next. So next, what we will do is that we will create or we upload a file. All right, we call it there is this sensitive file, right? So upload that. If you look at the bottom over here, right, in a while, it shows that it's uploaded successfully, right here. So why is this so? Is that because there's no SSL visibility inspection, right? So let's look at what this sensitive information is. So let's open up. It contains a dummy NRIC, right, and also some of the credit card numbers, right? So by right, this should be blocked by the security devices, but in this scenario it doesn't, right? So with that, right, you know, the next flow is the traffic will flow to a antivirus, right? So with that antivirus, what we were able to do is that we will go to a anti-malware test website. We will try to download a file that is malicious, right? And then by default, right, the antivirus should block that traffic from downloading, right? So because that is the purpose of the antivirus, right? So when we try to download, right, it's in the bottom left, you can see that it's being downloaded, right? So this is another thing that should not be happening, right? Because you already have a antivirus in place. And that is a very short and simple demo to show you the importance of SSL visibility, right? So this moves us next to the next demo portion. So first of all, the one that you see, right, it doesn't include F5 SSLO, but with the next few scenario, we are going to include F5 SSLO into the demo, all right? And then you're able to see what it can do to your environment in terms of a 3 to 4 different use cases, right? So what we have, once you have F5 SSL in place, right, we are able to have a single interception point, right? It reduces the complexity in terms of deployment, troubleshooting, and also to manage your traffic flow, and decrease your network latency. And then with that, right, we also can intelligently steering of your SSL traffic. Right, so let's go into a outbound scenario one, right? So let us go through the flow first. So the outbound scenario one, right? We internet users, right? We have internet users will go through next-gen firewall, right? Follow the arrow, and then 3 to secure antivirus, SWG with and then back into the public. But this time is with SSL inspection, right? So the objective of this first scenario one, right? In the next slide, I will show you the video. We wanted to prove to you the objective for traffic orchestration, right? So let's move on to the demo portion, right? So in this first demo, right, it will be similar to what you have seen in the first one, right? But just that we include F5 into that SSL inspection, right? So the test case scenario is the same thing. We will access Dropbox. We will have a next-gen firewall with DLP configured, right? And then we'll download a malware file, right? And then we will try to access a web category which is being configured by a SWG to block them from going to certain website, right? So these are the use cases. So let's start it. So first of all, let's look at the cert over here. So we go to Dropbox, inspect the cert, right? You can see that it is issued by localhost domain. So this is actually intercepted by F5 SSLO. It's being issued by F5, right? We do that because it's only for demo, so it's a self-signed cert, right? So once what we do is that with this, right, we confirm that it's being intercepted by F5 SSLO, right? So what we do is that we proceed to upload the file, right? The same thing. It's a sensitive file contain dummy NRIC, right, and also NRIC information. So we upload that in the Dropbox, and then we observe the differences, right? So you see in the bottom right, after a while, it says that it's unable to upload the file, right? So that means that somewhere in the your security stacks, right, is actually blocking that kind of traffic. So let's look at let's go into that logs from the DLP, which is on the Palo Alto side. So let's look at the logs. So in this, right, you can see that sorry, let me go back a bit more. Right. So you can see the application Dropbox, right? And then the action is reset server. So we actually put in this configuration, right, to block this kind of sensitive information that is being exposed to the public. So this has been working properly now, right? So next we want to download a malware file. So when we download that, you can see that the connection has been blocked, right? So that means that the antivirus, right, is blocking that from happening, right? It doesn't allow you to download any malware file, right? So this is working as expected, right? And then last but not least, if you remember the traffic flow, right, the last security stack models that we have, right, is F5 SWG. It's a secure web gateway. So what it does is that we will block, we can, based on a URL category, and then to block certain website category that the user is trying to access. Right, so that is the last traffic flow. So when we go into the secure web gateway of F5, what we want to do is you see that under the job search, right, we actually disable that. So any website that is related to job search, right, it will be denied or blocked, right? So let's try that out. We go into a browser. We go into a one of the websites related to that, jobship.com.sg. So going to that, we can see that it has been blocked by F5, right? So this is a blocking page provided configured in F5 SWG, right? So based on this scenario, we're trying to prove a few things, right? So F5 able to provide a SSL inspection, right? And then this one thing. Another thing, we provide SSL orchestration to direct your traffic to the various security devices that you want, right? So in this example, we flow to next-gen firewall, we flow to antivirus, we flow to secure web gateway, right? So this is the first scenario, right? So let's move on to the next outbound scenario 2, right? So outbound scenario 2, what we focus on is to provide a dynamic traffic tuning. So what this means is that due to a sensitive data, for example, finance or banking web, for example, you look at the green portion, right? Finance or banking traffic, right? So we wanted this sensitive application of traffic, right, to skip inspection, right? So we don't want to inspect the traffic. We want them to just bypass the SSL and then back into your public, for example, your web application in the public out there, right? So what we are able to do is that for your default users, right, we should look at the 1A over here, right? The users, right, will still flow through the default flow. It will flow through your DLP, your antivirus, your SWG, and then back to the public. But for finance, right, we will actually let them go into F5 SSL, and then you will be able to bypass the 3 security devices here, and then just let this finance or banking traffic back into your application in the cloud, in the public, right? So this is the second outbound scenario, right? So this, right, we are able to provide a very flexible in terms of traffic tuning, right? So all this can be done, right, just by adding a few or specific rules to handle this kind of redirection. So in terms of configuration, is very simple and easy to do. And then let's move on to outbound scenario 3. So outbound scenario 3 is kind of similar to outbound scenario 2, but this is about a dynamic evaluation of new services. So what does this mean is that, for example, right, you want to provision a next-gen firewall, right? You want to actually replace them with your existing firewall, right? And then you want to include into your existing chaining topology, right? So in this green portion, what you're able to see is that you can create, for example, a test user or users that you deem that is not business critical, right? And then we can connect them, we can connect the next-gen firewall, right? The new checkpoint firewall, for example, into the F5 SSL, right? And then configure some rules to just allow these users, right, to test out the features of next-gen firewall, for example, checkpoint, right? And then the traffic flow will be different from the default users. So as for that, right, the non-business critical users will flow through F5 SSL. It will go back into your next-gen firewall, the new checkpoint firewall, and then it will bypass the existing next-gen firewall. It will go straight into antivirus, SWG, and then to your public, whereby the default users, right, they will still flow through the initial flow, right? They will flow through F5 SSL. It will go into your next-gen firewall, your existing one, and then to your secure antivirus, secure web gateway, and then to the public, right? So what this are this is also achieved by adding a few policies rules, all right? And then with that, right, it provides a very direct change, and then it will not impact your production traffic flow, right? So you can always evaluate new services. You can always add in new vendors, and then without jeopardizing your production traffic. So that is the whole idea, right? And then this can be done based on a dynamic kind of approach. So how do we do that? It's based on a rules that we set over here, right? So for example, if you look at the rules that we set based on a government or financial sector, right? What we do is that based on certain condition, based on a category lookup, whether it is related to government, financial data or services, right? We will allow bypass, right? So the SSL forward proxy is bypass. So for those for the B scenario, right? To dynamic evaluate the new services when there is new vendors, right? We can set rules. For example, this certain subnet, right? You allow interception, right? But to your next-gen firewall, to the new checkpoint firewall over here, right? You can see here, right? So they are being routed to a different devices, to a different secure devices, right? And then what about the default one? So the other traffic, right, which means that the all condition, right, it will flow through as per default. It will flow through your Palo Alto next-gen firewall, and then it will go straight into your antivirus, AV, right, and then to your secure web gateway, right. So this is the flow of that, right, and then whereby for your non-business critical, it will flow through your checkpoint, right, CP, then it will flow through your antivirus, and then back to your secure web gateway, right. So this can be done just via a simple rules as per seen in this slide, right. And then next we move on to outbound scenario 4, right. So outbound scenario 4 is about dynamic service scaling, right. So what this means is that in short, right, it is the expansion of your existing services, and then after that, right, we are able to load balance them into your existing topology, right. Like what I mentioned earlier is that F5, right, we are very well known in ADC portion, right. So with F5 SSL, we have a load balance algorithm and features that you are able to use it from this module itself, right. So this, for example, one day if your antivirus is not enough, maybe your antivirus over here, they are not enough to handle the traffic load, right? So what you need to do is you need to add in, or you need to spin up another instances, all right? And then you can replicate the config to the new instances, all right? And then what we can do is that we will add these new instances into your F5 SSL topology, and then we are able to load balance them together, right? So when in terms of traffic that is going out in the public, right, it will go into next-gen firewall. It will flow into your secure antivirus, right? So the first traffic will hit maybe instance 1, and then flow out to the public. And then the second traffic flow, it will hit the second instance, right? So in this way, we are able to add in existing services, right? Expand that and load balance them, right? So this is what F5 SSL is capable of. So let's look at the demo video pertaining to that scenario. Right, so let's look at that. So this is the SSL web gateway, right? So we have you can see that these are the security devices that is in place, right? Palo Alto checkpoint, secure gate, and also the antivirus here, right? So let's look at how we do that. So let's look at services, right? And this is the antivirus, right? We call it discrete clamp AV. So let's click into that, show all. So right now, there's only one member of discrete clamp AV, right? So the member status is online, and then it's based on .213, right over here, the member status. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit that, go into service. We could add in another ICANN devices. So we will put another IP .214, right? So let's done and save and next, and then we deploy it accordingly. So let us deploy. So after it has been deployed, let me fast forward to that. Right, so it has been successful. So let us look at the config again, right? The topology under services and then script antivirus AV, show all. So in this, you can see that right now, there is two new members in place, right? There is a .213, which is the existing one. And then we actually replicate them, and then to include one more instances, right, is .214 over here, right? And then we actually do a load balancing between these two instances, right? So let us see the statistics of that. So what we do is that we go into pool under the script antivirus, right? We will look at the statistics. So these are two members and the statistics that we were able to provide in a while, right? Statistics. So as you can see, right, in the back end, we are really triggering some of the traffic to the public. And this traffic has been flowing through instance one. You see that there is packet coming in, and then there is also information, the packets, right, coming into your .214, which is the new instances over here, right? So to recap a bit, right, is that in this scenario, right, we are able to expand your services because due to a overloading or stress of CPU utilization, right, and then we expand that. We can add in the new instances, and then we can load balance them into your existing topology, right? So this is the last scenario for F5 SSLO, right? So total we have 4 scenarios, right? And then if you aware that this scenario, right, is all about outbound, right? So for inbound scenario, right, we have another kind of COE showcase, which is targeted more on a inbound scenario, right? So what is next, right? We have in place is we have a responsive showcase, which we talk about advanced WAF, right? So what we do is that we have created same thing, a field scenario to target against inbound traffic, and then how F5 advanced WAF, right, is able to block those incoming traffic based on a application layer, right? So first of all, let me just go through a very quick one, right? In this 5 scenario, what we are able to do in this showcase, right, is that the same thing, we built this lab based on a different multi-vendors environment, right? We have F5 advanced WAF, we have an internal web application, we have put in checkpoint next-gen firewall, right, to serve as a network firewall, right? And then lastly, we have a external network, which we include some of the penetration tools like Kali Linux, right, to do that traffic threats. So the scenario one, what we're able to do is that we will launch a layer 4 SIM flight attack, and then this SIM flight attack, right, can be blocked by network firewall. So this will be settled by a next-gen firewall of other vendors, right? And then the next scenario, we will trigger a layer 7 DOS attack, right? So in this layer 7 DOS attack, right, what we know is that a network firewall is not able to block against layer 7, right? But we have include a F5 advanced WAF in the second tier. So in this approach, right, you will be able to see that the layer 7 DOS attack, it will bypass your network firewall, but it will be detected by advanced WAF, and advanced WAF will be able to block it. So this DOS threats, right, is triggered via one of tools from F5, and then it's based on a behaviorist kind of DDoS prevention, right? And then the third scenario we have is that we will expose some of our internal web application to the public about 1 week, and then we will observe the activities that hit on the AWAF, right? And then we are able to demonstrate and explain what are the common threats that we see. And then this threat is based on a live kind of a data, right? So advanced WAF, we pick up this thing immediately, right? And then the fourth scenario, what we have is based on a manual pen testing, right? So what we are able to do, right, for this scenario 4, we have two parts to that, right? So first part, we'll be using certain tool to demonstrate the processes of a manual pen testing, right? So we will do a server-side code injection, right? We will inject a malicious code into a web server, right? And then we will, based on that, we will take control of the server using a web shell, right? And then we will do a reverse connection back into your attacker's server, and then we call it a reverse shell, right? And then we will expose the data in the database, we will breach the database, and then we can do other things like a website defacement, which means to change the layout of the application, right? And then this is the first part of scenario 4. And then the second part of scenario 4, right? What we do is that we will turn on the WAF protection, right? So by turning on, we will run the manual pen test process again, and then you're able to see that F5 Advanced WAF, right, is able to block that kind of traffic, right? And then last but not least, scenario 5. So scenario 5 is about credential protection, right? So we will able to show to you the features of Advanced WAF to show you how F5 is able to protect against your credential, even though your browser has already infected with malware, right? So these are the things that we have that you can, if you are interested in the next showcase that we have, right? I think you, at the end of the webinar, right, you can actually approach one of our people, right, from Westcorn or in Security 5, right, and then to sign up your interest for these advanced WAF showcases, right? And then, yeah, so this is to be continued, right? So, Brett, thank you. So this is the end of my portion.